The 13 Warrior Kings of Dahomey. Although the history of Dahomey is hard to track up until 1710, due to before then no outside travelers had direct contact with Dahomey as a state, oral tradition narratives and most scholars agree it started around 1600. One thing that does differ is who exactly receives the title of first king. Between sources, it is said Genjin Hasho was the first king of Dahomey, but others mark his brother, Dako, and even Dako's nephew, Weibija, as the first king of Dahomey. The kings of Dahomey had quite an interesting custom when they commemorated their descent to the throne. First off, they would swear to leave behind more territory than they were left with, making them an expansionist people. Second, they would choose a motto that expressed their attributes and royal strong name they had chosen. Third, they chose symbols which served many purposes, promoting the king's name and motto, warn enemies and rivals, commemorate great deeds, and spread the king's fame. As it is known, the Dahomey society is quite different than that of Western society. Their history is stories, dances, music, and visual arts. Visual arts passed down from generation to generation. Other than the paintings left on the walls of what is left of Abomey Palace, another visual way to track the symbols of kings is to look at the benign appliques. Appliques are a form of embroidery where brightly colored cloth is stitched to a background, and in the benign area of Africa, they have been around since even before the kingdom of Dahomey. They would be hung in homes as decoration, made into the flags of kings, and adorned every possible place during festivals, celebrations, and when a new king took the throne. The study of paintings on Abomey's palace walls and African appliques is the center of mapping out the 13 kings of Dahomey and their words, symbols, and rights of power. The first king of Dahomey, Genjin Hasho, was known for his squabble between his brothers at the death of their father for succession. Other than that, however, not that much is known. The start of his reign, for one, doesn't seem to be known, but we know that it ended with his death at the hands of his brother Dako in 1620. His symbols were a Genjin Hasho bird, a drum, and a hunting or throwing stick. His motto was, "I am the biggest bird and the loudest drum. You can't keep the bird from singing, and you can't keep the drum from beating." Dako, Genjin Hasho's younger brother, took the throne in 1620 and reigned until 1645. He was depicted to be a very cruel man, and this is even shown in his symbol, that being an indigo jar, tinder box, and a war club. His motto, "Dako kills Kano as easily as breaking an indigo jar," is another reference to his cruelty, as it comes from a backstory about him killing an indigo farmer by shoving him in a large indigo jar and rolling him inside until he died. Before Dako's death, he named his nephew Weibija as the next ruler in succession. Weibija, who ruled from 1645 to 1685, was the most famous of all kings of Dahomey. He established the capital on Abomey Plateau and became the symbol of militaristic values of the Fon people. He established autocratic centralized government and began building the palace of Abomey. During his land-driven wars, he began the sale of prisoners of war to European traders. His sale of prisoners of war to Europeans brought new growth to Dahomey's economy and would bring great financial power to the state. He was also said to be the one who started the Mino, more commonly known as Dahomey's Amazon warriors. His symbols were a fish, a net, and a war club. His motto was, "The fish who has escaped the net will not go back into it." Weibija's son, Akba, would be the fourth king of Dahomey. Ruling from 1685 to 1708, He would be remembered for military expansion and more war. His struggle with the Yoruba in the west would result in the burning down of Abomey, the capital, before he would beat the Yoruba back to claim the banks of the Oromay River. His symbols were a warthog and a saber. The saber, a well-known symbol of his, because he would actually carry a very specific type of saber called an akubar, a wide curved sword he used to behead his enemies. His motto, "When the warthog looks up at the sky, it gets its throat slit." Akba would end up dying of the European sickness smallpox in 1708. Since his son would not yet be old enough to succeed the throne, his brother, Agja, would be the next to take over. Agja ruled from 1708 to 1732. One interesting thing about him is when his brother's son finally came of age to take the throne, he refused to give up power and would send his nephew into exile. He would continue the war with Yoruba, but would lead the Dahomey army to defeat. This would lead to them having to pay tribute to the Oyo Empire for 100 years, tribute in the form of slaves, livestock, weapons, cloth, and pearls. Even with this loss, he did expand the edges of Dahomey territory to the ocean. This gave them their own ports, expanding wealth and access to trade. It also made possible direct trade with the Europeans, helping to move Dahomey into a golden age. In 1727, when he defeated the city of Wida, his use of the Mino as shock troops not only gained his win, but spread the fame of the Mino among Europeans as the Dahomey Amazons. Agja, when visiting a port, was so amazed by European ships, he adopted the caravel as his symbol. His motto, "No one can set fire to the tree that has fallen whole with its branches. First it must be cut," seems to represent his loss to Oyo and gain in wealth. Tegbasu, the sixth king of Dahomey, ruled from 1732 to 1744. He would kill anyone who was found to be coup plotters or become political enemies. Teg would also refuse to pay tribute to the Yoruba, leading to years of more war with Dahomey's neighbors. With continued war came more expansion on slavery. His symbol and motto were both related, his symbol being a water buffalo wearing a blue tunic, and his motto, "Nothing can force the buffalo to take off its tunic," brings us to the story of another old custom. The custom of when one is to take the throne, he would wear the coat of his father for one day. When Teg wore his father's tunic, someone had rubbed down the inside of it with stinging nettles to try to force him to take it off. Perhaps it was a political movement to make him look bad. He suffered through it and for it, as the tale goes. The next king, Kapengla, ruled as the seventh king from 1744 to 1789. He expanded the land of Dahomey to modern-day Togo. He destroyed village-based economies in order to hold a monopoly on the slave trade. His symbol was an akpan bird along with a gun. Kaplenga's model was, "In the water, the stone does not fear or feel the cold." His son, Anglo, would be his successor. Anglo ruled from 1789 to 1797. He passed reforms within society to please the people. An example of this is that he made it so people received more gifts during ceremonies and customs. Agon married a European woman of mixed ancestry by the name of Sophie. His symbol was a pineapple and his motto was, "Lightning strikes the palm tree, but never hits the pineapple plant, which is close to the earth. Agon's oldest son, Adanduzan, would rule from 1797 to 1818 and would become a great controversy within the history of Dahomey. So much so that his name would be forbidden within the walls of Abomey. Considered mad, he fought tirelessly with the Europeans and tried to institute unpopular changes, changes like cutting the power of holy priests, and to extend the acts of human sacrifice to people of noble blood. Overthrown by his brother, Gezo, in 1818, he was put under a sort of house arrest and was buried quietly at the time of his death in 1861. His symbol was a large parasol, and his motto was, "The king overshadows his enemies." Gezo would rule as the 10th king of Dahomey from 1818 to 1856 and would not share the madness of his father. Instead, he expanded more on slavery and lowered taxes for his people. He also expanded trade goods and agriculture with France, whose influence was growing in Dahomey by the day. However, in 1856 he would die in battle with the Yoruba. His symbol was a water buffalo, and his motto was, "The powerful buffalo crosses the country and nothing can stop or confront it." Gele, son of Gezel, would rule next from 1856 to 1889. He continued war campaigns with the Yoruba, not only to get slaves, but revenge for his father. He would sign treaties of trade with the French, but resist the English over the difference they had with their view of slavery. Things then started to go sour with the French, as Gele laid on his deathbed. His son, Bahazen, took over before he died in 1890. Gele's symbol was a lion, and his motto was, "Knife of Gu, or God of War, punishes rebels." Bahazen would be the 12th ruler, and he would also be the last independent ruler of Dahomey. He began to see the French as a threat to the lives of the people of Dahomey. Through a deal with his father Gele made with them, Dahomey received the town of Cotonou in return for their hunt for slaves, as well as their help fighting other tribes who would not play nice with the French. Bahazen started isolating his people in his mind to save them from the dishonorable French, and refused to meet with the French envoys. The French, in turn, declared war and justified their actions by accusing the Dahomeans of being savages, pointed to their use of sacrifice and rites and their ties to slavery as reason alone to be done with them. Bahazen ruled from 1889 until his surrender to the French in 1894, and would spend the rest of his life in exile in Algeria. His symbol was Algeria. His symbol was a shark, and his motto was, "I am the shark. I will not relinquish an inch of my kingdom." The 13th and final ruler of Dahomey ruled from 1894 to 1900. His name was Aguli Agbu, and he was installed by the French. The French thinking he would be an easy puppet ruler, only to find him becoming increasingly resistant as he watched the wealth drained from his people. The French then captured him, forced him into exile, and abolished royalty in Dahomey. When they named Dahomey a French colony, they brought end to the era of Dahomey. Aguli Agba's symbol was a foot tripping over a large rock, and his motto was, "Beware, the royal Dahomean dynasty has stumbled but has not yet fallen."